What's up, everybody? We are here today to talk about the men's field at the 2024 Dubai Fitness Championship. So this field, a bit different than last year when we saw, the likes of Roman Karnikov, Ricky Garrar, Luka Dukic standing on the podium. Dubai, they went to a completely online qualification system this year. They did dish a couple invites out at the end, but last year they did, a suite of invites. So moving to the online qualifier, definitely impacted the elite athletes that came through, as well. Kind of the tragic events of Luka Dukic passing at the CrossFit Games this year also kind of threw a wrench in a lot of people's competitive plans this year. So as we dive into the field, I think there's four guys that are realistically going to be fighting for the podium. Obviously, somebody can come as a dark horse from deeper in the field, but I think there's four main contenders and then a few other guys just to keep your eyes on that should be interesting to throw in the mix throughout the weekend. So my favorite to win it all, Moritz Fiebig. He finished 21st, 23rd at the CrossFit Games last year in 2023. Was looking to have another strong performance this year. Was a little bit derailed at the French Throwdown, finishing 10th, so just squeezing into that Games in the final spot, and then ultimately withdrew from the CrossFit Games, so we didn't get to see him kind of take that another step into the top 20 that a lot of people expected, but did finish 4th in individual quarterfinals from a Europe perspective, 7th worldwide this year, so definitely had the capabilities to finish in one of those top spots, just kind of didn't play out for him this year. Since the Games, Belgrade Games a few weeks ago, took the top spot on that one. So again, also ahead of a couple guys competing in this field that we'll get to shortly. But with his 21st last year, kind of positioning himself to be the best out of this group. And I think he's going to be the front runner for the top spot on the podium. Second guy to highlight here, Luka Dukic. So he had his best finish at a semifinal earlier this year when he finished 5th at the French Throwdown. Obviously, everything went sideways from him at the CrossFit Games. So it is good to see him back on the competition floor after everything him and his family had to go through after, the tragic death of his brother, Lazar. So it'll be good to see him compete. On Instagram, he did share that he was a little uncertain of whether he did want to continue competing, but pushed through, ended up winning the qualifier for Dubai out of, the rest of this field. So as terms of getting in, he was the best. He's also kind of the showcase for what a touring CrossFit professional can be, competing 4 or 5 times a year. Earlier this year, he won the UAE Storm Games, and then at the Belgrade Games a couple weeks ago, he finished 3rd. So definitely in position to continue that step forward. I think he's going to be a favorite for the 2nd or 3rd on the podium, but depending on how the weekend plays out, could be battling Fiebig for top spot. Next up, also out of Europe, Calum Clements. So he finished top 20 at the CrossFit Games this year in his rookie year, 20th spot. Had a 9th at the French Throwdown, so was able to sneak in, but then, did showcase that he was in that top 20 caliber at the Games. For him, it'll be good for him to have the opportunity to compete with some of these top guys at Dubai. Just with everything that happened at the Games, it kind of overshadowed his performance. And then he also got like Austin Hatfield finishing 10th from a rookie perspective. So his 20th was overshadowed. So it'll good to see him be able to compete with Fiebig, with Dukic, with Olenkowicz, with Spencer Panjic, to see, how he fits in with that group, which is kind of his peer group based off of the semifinals and how those played out. Clements doesn't have a ton of experience outside of the CrossFit Games season. Back in 2022, he was 6th at Madrid. That competition pretty strong. That was a year that Luka Dukic won, but then you had Enola Key, David Shrunky, Alex Kudelis, and Travis Mayer rounding out the top 5, and then you had Clements. So since the 2022 Madrid, 5 of those 6 guys all have been to the CrossFit Games. So for Clements to be able to showcase his talents a couple years ago, interesting to see how he is able to bring it back to Dubai in his first appearance there. Fourth guy that'll be interesting, I think he'll be in a fight for the podium, Spencer Panjic. Panjic missed the Games, kind of a disappointing 20th at the Syndicate Crown this year, but again, Spencer Panjic, he does have that pedigree at the CrossFit Games. So last year, 2023, Panjic had a 17th at the Games. Again, just to highlight, where the field sits in Dubai, Spencer Panchik's 17th is the best individual CrossFit Games finish among anybody on the men's side at Dubai. So I think there are 8 guys there with Games experience. So when 17th is top spot, again, it's only a year ago, so you got to think Spencer Panchik still got it. 2 years ago, 2022, he had a 20th, which again tied with Clements for the second best finish at the CrossFit Games among anybody in this field. So Spencer Panchik, he has been keeping busy with the tactical games this year. And then again, just elite competition standpoint, Spencer was 10th at Wodapalooza back in January. So I guess from a podium perspective, really those 4 guys I think are going to be the favorites to battling for the podium itself. So Moritz Fiebig, Luka Dukic, Calum Clements, and Spencer Panchik. Those are going to be your favorites. A few other guys that are going to make it interesting this weekend. Mentioned him earlier, Bronislaw Olenkowicz. So, he is 35. He's going to be the oldest guy in the field, but he still has it, is able to throw down with this group. Had a 20th at the French Throwdown. Didn't necessarily go the way he wanted, but again, 2023, he had a 26th at the CrossFit Games. And last year at Dubai, with a much stronger field, he had a 7th. So again, could be in the fight for kind of the bottom end of the podium or top 5 finish for him. Very least, he's going to make the lift off with Tola look pretty interesting in that clean front squat jerk complex that they're going to have the athletes go through. With Olenkowicz, he did finish 2nd at the Belgrade Games a couple weeks ago behind Fiebig and ahead of Dukic. But again, that event only had 6 events. So when he is able to win the lift, it is able to buy him a little bit more space on the standings with 6 events, where if we see 9 or 10, which we typically see at the games, I'm not sure he'll be able to hold on there. Youngster, that will be interesting to watch, coming out of New Zealand, Ben Fowler. So Fowler was 8th at Torium Pro this year as an individual, but was 4th in Oceania in individual quarterfinals. So has that pedigree to compete with that group. And again, Torium Pro is a pretty stacked field when you look at it, with all those games athletes in there. So impressive for him at only 23. Last year, he made the trip to Madrid, kind of his only major competition outside of the game season. He finished 9th, which again is a historically strong field at Madrid. So if he's able to kind of compete at that same level this year, with the field that we're going to see at Dubai, could position himself for a 5th through 7th place finish. 2022, he went to the CrossFit Games as part of CrossFit Selwyn. That team finished 6th. So also does have that experience competing when the pressure's on the line. And then one last guy to keep your eye on. Interesting to see how he does compete with this field out of Canada. Benoit Boulanger, he's training out of Montreal, trades with Jeff Adler and under Caroline Lamprey as coach. So it'll be interesting to see how he does compete on this field. He's really only competed at semifinals the last few years. Was 17th in North America East last year, 18th at the Syndicate Crown this year. So that same area, but also North America East is going to be the strongest semifinal out there. So if he is able to hold his own there, should transfer pretty well over to Dubai, which again puts him in that Spencer Panchik, Calum Clements type of range. So it's interesting to see how he is able to compete with that group of guys this weekend. So with that, if you haven't seen it, check out our women's field preview as well on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms. And if you made it this far, hit like, hit subscribe. If you have any interest in CrossFit Games stats, make sure you check out franlung.com. Pretty much every athlete you can think of, we have their career history. And then follow us along on Instagram at Franlung Analytics. We got some stats pieces there, as well as links to all of our content that is published on Morning Chalk Up. With that, take care. Have a great day.